Imagine a world where being good isn't always the right choice. What if the path to greatness requires embracing the shadows within us? This question might seem unsettling, yet it's a profound reflection on the complexities of human morality and leadership. Consider Winston Churchill during World War II, a leader celebrated for his moral fortitude. Yet, he faced an impossible decision: authorize the bombing of German cities, knowing it would lead to civilian casualties, or hold back and risk losing the war. His choice to proceed was neither purely evil nor entirely virtuous. Instead, it was a calculated move born out of necessity, reflecting a deeper, more nuanced understanding of what it means to be good in dire circumstances. This tension between morality and necessity is at the heart of Niccolo Machiavelli's philosophy. In his seminal work, The Prince, Machiavelli introduces the concept of virtue, which challenges traditional notions of goodness by emphasizing strength, cunning, and adaptability as essential traits for effective leadership. Unlike conventional virtues such as kindness or honesty, Machiavelli's virtue is about the pragmatic ability to navigate through life's tumultuous waters, whether calm or chaotic, to achieve one's goals. It suggests that true leaders must sometimes forsake idealistic morals to maintain power and stability, ensuring the greater good even if it involves morally ambiguous decisions. Thus, today we delve into the dark side of goodness, exploring how Machiavelli's insights compel us to reconsider our definitions of virtue and leadership. Through historical anecdotes, psychological analysis, and philosophical reflections, we will uncover how embracing certain dark qualities can illuminate paths to success and greatness. So, let us embark on this journey into the depths of Machiavellian thought, challenging ourselves to see beyond black and white moralities and embrace the complex interplay of light and shadow within the realm of human conduct. To truly grasp Machiavelli's concept of virtue, we must first understand it not as a synonym for moral virtue, but as a dynamic force characterized by strength, adaptability, and strategic acumen. Unlike the conventional virtues often celebrated in religious or ethical doctrines, such as compassion, humility, or honesty, Machiavelli's virtue is inherently pragmatic and outcome-oriented. It embodies the relentless pursuit of power and the shrewd navigation of political landscapes, prioritizing effectiveness over righteousness. Consider the metaphor of a river to illustrate this idea. A river does not choose its course based on moral considerations. It simply flows, adapting to every twist and turn, carving through mountains and meandering through plains. Similarly, virtue demands that a leader be fluid and resilient, capable of altering strategies in response to changing circumstances without being shackled by rigid moral codes. This adaptability allows leaders to seize opportunities and overcome obstacles, much like a river finding its way to the ocean despite numerous impediments. Historical figures, such as Caesar Borgia, exemplify this principle of virtue. Borgia, a central figure in Machiavelli's writings, demonstrated remarkable cunning and ruthlessness in his quest for power. He manipulated alliances, eliminated rivals, and consolidated territories with an iron fist, all while maintaining a facade of loyalty and piety. His actions were far from traditionally virtuous, yet they underscored a brutal efficiency that secured his influence and control. Borgia adapted swiftly to betrayals and shifting political tides, embodying the essence of virtue by achieving his objectives regardless of the moral cost. Another compelling example is Alexander the Great, whose conquests reshaped the ancient world. Alexander's military genius and ability to inspire fierce loyalty among his troops stemmed not only from his battlefield prowess, but also from his adeptness at cultural assimilation and political maneuvering. He adopted local customs, married Persian princesses, and integrated foreign soldiers into his army, demonstrating a form of virtue that transcended mere physical strength. By adapting his strategies to incorporate diverse cultures and tactics, Alexander expanded his empire far beyond what seemed possible, proving that virtue involves more than brute force. It encompasses intelligence, flexibility, and vision. These examples highlight how virtue diverges sharply from traditional virtues. While conventional morality might advocate for steadfast adherence to ethical principles, virtue champions pragmatism and situational ethics. It acknowledges that, in the complex arena of human affairs, sticking rigidly to moral ideals can sometimes hinder progress or even lead to failure. Instead, virtue encourages leaders to assess each situation on its own merits, making decisions that prioritize long-term success and stability over short-term moral satisfaction. Ultimately, Machiavelli's virtue redefines leadership as a balancing act between moral integrity and practical efficacy. It challenges us to consider whether the ends truly justify the means when navigating the intricate dance of power and politics. By embracing the fluidity and resilience symbolized by the ever-adapting river, leaders can harness the full potential of virtue to carve their paths to greatness, irrespective of the moral ambiguities they might encounter along the way. In the intricate tapestry of leadership, Machiavelli posits a provocative stance. To achieve commendable outcomes, one must occasionally engage in actions that are conventionally deemed bad. This notion underscores a pivotal aspect of his philosophy, moral flexibility. It is here that Machiavelli diverges sharply from the traditional dichotomy of good versus evil, advocating instead for a pragmatic approach to governance and leadership, where the ends can indeed justify the means. Consider the scenario of a political leader facing a national crisis, such as an impending economic collapse. Traditional moral frameworks might dictate transparency and adherence to democratic processes, urging the leader to openly discuss potential austerity measures that could alienate constituents. However, Machiavelli would argue for a different strategy, one that prioritizes the preservation of societal order and economic stability over immediate public approval. In such a context, the leader might choose to implement necessary reforms covertly, avoiding public dissent and potential unrest, thereby safeguarding the nation's future at the expense of temporary ethical compromise. This approach is vividly illustrated in the historical narrative of Otto von Bismarck, the architect of German unification. Known for his realpolitik, Bismarck often employed tactics that were ruthless and deceptive to unify Germany under Prussian leadership. His manipulation of diplomatic crises and orchestration of wars against Denmark, Austria, and France were not just acts of aggression, but strategic moves to consolidate power and foster national unity. These actions, though morally questionable, led to the creation of a powerful and unified German state, a testament to Machiavelli's belief in the efficacy of pragmatic leadership over idealistic governance. Moreover, the essence of moral flexibility is encapsulated in Machiavelli's assertion that it is better for a leader to be feared than loved, if he cannot be both. This statement, often misinterpreted as an endorsement of tyranny, actually reflects a deeper understanding of human psychology and the dynamics of power. Fear, according to Machiavelli, is a more reliable basis for control because it stems from a respect for authority and the consequences of disobedience, whereas love is fickle and dependent on personal sentiments, which can easily wane. To further elucidate this point, imagine a fictional dialogue between Machiavelli and a contemporary leader grappling with a severe humanitarian crisis. Leader asked, "But how can I justify withholding aid from those in desperate need? Won't my people see me as cruel and uncaring?" Machiavelli replied, "Your concern for your image is understandable, but misplaced. A leader must look beyond immediate perceptions to the enduring stability of the state. Sometimes, resources must be allocated strategically, even if it means some suffer temporarily. Remember, your primary duty is to ensure the survival and prosperity of the majority, not to appease the emotions of the few." Such a conversation underscores the harsh realities leaders face when torn between ethical imperatives and pragmatic necessities. It highlights the uncomfortable truth that leadership often requires making decisions that may tarnish one's moral standing in the short term, but are crucial for long-term success and stability. Through these examples and reflections, Machiavelli's advocacy for moral flexibility emerges not as a justification for amorality, but as a call for a deeper, more nuanced understanding of leadership. It challenges leaders to transcend simplistic moral binaries and embrace the complexity of real-world decision-making, where the ultimate measure of success is not adherence to abstract ethical principles, but the tangible benefits delivered to the populace. Thus, the dark side of goodness, as illuminated by Machiavelli, reveals itself not as a descent into malevolence, but as an ascent into a more sophisticated and effective form of leadership. At the core of Machiavelli's teachings lies a profound comprehension of human nature, an insight that remains profoundly relevant in understanding the dynamics of leadership and power. Machiavelli perceived humans as inherently self-interested creatures, driven primarily by personal gain, fear, and ambition. This perspective is not merely cynical, but rather a realistic appraisal of human behavior, which leaders must navigate to effectively govern and lead. Leaders who fail to recognize the self-serving tendencies of individuals risk undermining their own authority and the stability of their regimes. History provides ample evidence of this principle in action. Take, for instance, the reign of Louis Roman XIV of France, famously known as the Sun King. Louis understood the importance of manipulating human desires and fears to consolidate his power. By creating an opulent court life centered around him at Versailles, he ensured that nobles were preoccupied with vying for his favor rather than plotting against him. This strategic use of luxury and status as tools of control kept potential rivals close and manageable, effectively neutralizing threats to his throne. Similarly, the story of Augustus Caesar offers another compelling illustration of Machiavellian tactics applied through an acute understanding of human psychology. After the assassination of Julius Caesar, Rome was plunged into chaos. Augustus, then known as Octavian, astutely played on the Roman people's longing for peace and stability. He portrayed himself not as another tyrant, but as a restorer of the Republic, cleverly masking his accumulation of power behind a facade of traditional values and civic responsibility. By aligning his ambitions with the public's desire for order, Augustus successfully navigated the treacherous waters of Roman politics, emerging as the first emperor of Rome. These historical narratives underscore the critical role of psychological acumen in leadership. Leaders like Louis Roman XIV and Augustus Caesar did not merely react to events. They anticipated human behaviors and crafted strategies that exploited these tendencies to their advantage. They recognized that fear could be as potent a motivator as reward, and that appearances often mattered as much as reality in the theater of politics. Furthermore, Machiavelli's insights extend beyond historical anecdotes to offer timeless lessons for modern leadership. In today's corporate and political landscapes, understanding the motivations and fears of stakeholders, be they employees, voters, or business partners, is crucial for effective decision-making. Leaders who can read the room, so to speak, and adjust their strategies accordingly are more likely to succeed. This involves not only recognizing overt expressions of interest or disapproval, but also discerning underlying currents of sentiment that may not be immediately apparent. For instance, a CEO looking to implement significant organizational changes must gauge the emotional temperature of her team. Are they fearful of job losses, excited about new opportunities, resistant due to comfort with the status quo? Each of these responses requires a tailored approach, from transparent communication and reassurance to incentives for embracing change. Such nuanced understanding and responsive leadership echo Machiavelli's advice to rulers: know thy people, for they are both your greatest asset and your most formidable challenge. In essence, Machiavelli's exploration of human nature serves as a guidebook for leaders navigating the complex interplay of power, perception, and psychology. Whether ruling ancient empires or steering modern enterprises, the ability to anticipate and leverage human behavior remains a cornerstone of effective leadership. As history has shown, those who master this art often leave indelible marks on the pages of time, their legacies built not just on the strength of their policies, but on the depth of their understanding of the human condition. In delving deeper into Machiavelli's philosophical framework, one encounters a stark delineation between personal ethics and political actions, a separation that fundamentally challenges conventional moral paradigms. Machiavelli posits that the realm of politics operates under a distinct set of rules, ones that often necessitate actions which, if judged by personal ethical standards, might appear reprehensible. This bifurcation between private morality and public governance raises profound questions about the nature of leadership and the sacrifices it may demand. Consider the utilitarian undertones in Machiavelli's philosophy, where the justification of means by their ends becomes a pivotal consideration. In this view, a leader's actions are vindicated not by their adherence to moral absolutes, but by their contribution to the greater good. This perspective aligns with the utilitarian principle that the rightness of an action is determined by its ability to produce the greatest happiness for the greatest number. However, applying such a principle in governance introduces a complex moral calculus, weighing the immediate suffering caused by a decision against its long-term benefits. A poignant example of this ethical tightrope is found in the leadership of Abraham Lincoln during the American Civil War. Lincoln, revered for his moral integrity, faced the daunting task of preserving the Union amidst a conflict that threatened to tear the nation apart. His Emancipation Proclamation, while a monumental step towards ending slavery, was also a strategic military decision aimed at weakening the Confederacy. From a purely ethical standpoint, the proclamation could be seen as politically motivated, yet its impact on the abolition of slavery was undeniably profound. Here, Lincoln embodies the Machiavellian leader who, while guided by a moral compass, recognizes the exigencies of political reality and acts accordingly. To further explore this tension, let us revisit the parable of the scorpion and the frog. In this tale, the scorpion asks the frog to carry it across a river. Despite the frog's initial reluctance, fearing the scorpion's nature, it agrees after the scorpion assures it of no harm. Midway across, the scorpion stings the frog, dooming them both. When questioned, the scorpion simply states, "It's my nature." This fable poignantly captures the inherent conflict between nature and choice, instinct and reason, a theme resonant in Machiavelli's discourse on leadership. In the context of Machiavellian philosophy, the frog represents the idealistic leader who clings to noble intentions, hoping for the best outcomes through virtuous actions. Conversely, the scorpion symbolizes the pragmatic leader who acts according to the dictates of necessity, unswayed by moral qualms. Both meet tragic ends, yet the scorpion's fate underscores a grim acceptance of one's true nature, a recognition that sometimes the path to achieving larger goals involves embracing less savory aspects of oneself. This duality presents a compelling argument for the integration of Machiavellian tactics in leadership. It suggests that while personal ethics provide a foundational moral framework, the exigencies of political leadership may require deviations from these norms. Leaders must thus cultivate a dual consciousness, one that respects personal morality while remaining adaptable to the demands of political necessity. Ultimately, Machiavelli's separation of ethics and politics invites us to reconsider the very fabric of moral judgment in leadership. It challenges us to evaluate actions not solely through the lens of personal righteousness, but through their broader implications on societal welfare. As we navigate the complexities of modern governance, the lessons drawn from Machiavelli's philosophy remain eerily pertinent, urging leaders to balance the scales of morality and pragmatism with wisdom and foresight. As we draw this exploration to a close, let us revisit the key lessons gleaned from Machiavelli's profound insights into the nature of power and leadership. At the heart of his philosophy lies the concept of virtue, a multifaceted trait encompassing strength, adaptability, and strategic cunning. Unlike traditional virtues that emphasize moral rectitude, virtue champions pragmatism and situational ethics, urging leaders to navigate the murky waters of human affairs with both resilience and flexibility. This adaptability, akin to a river carving its path through varied terrains, underscores the necessity for leaders to modify their strategies in response to evolving circumstances, prioritizing long-term success over fleeting moral victories. Moreover, Machiavelli's teachings illuminate the uncomfortable yet undeniable truth that sometimes achieving commendable outcomes requires engaging in actions that are conventionally viewed as bad. This moral flexibility, though seemingly paradoxical, is rooted in a deep understanding of human psychology and the dynamics of power. By acknowledging the self-serving tendencies inherent in human nature, leaders can craft strategies that not only preempt potential threats, but also harness these instincts to bolster their authority and ensure societal stability. However, the application of Machiavellian principles extends beyond historical anecdotes and theoretical discussions. It beckons a personal introspection. Reflect on your own life. Have you encountered moments where adhering strictly to your principles felt impractical or even detrimental? Perhaps there was a juncture in your career when upholding absolute transparency risked destabilizing a project or jeopardizing team morale. In such scenarios, Machiavelli's philosophy encourages a reevaluation of your moral compass, suggesting that true leadership sometimes demands stepping into the shadows of moral ambiguity to illuminate paths toward greater good. Consider a hypothetical situation where you, as a community leader, face a dilemma involving resource allocation during a crisis. Your commitment to fairness might urge equal distribution, yet a pragmatic assessment reveals that prioritizing vulnerable groups could prevent widespread suffering. Here, embracing the darker facets of decision-making, choosing efficiency over egalitarianism, mirrors Machiavelli's advocacy for actions justified by their outcomes rather than their adherence to moral ideals. Thus, as you ponder these reflections, I challenge you to critically examine your own moral dilemmas. How might you apply Machiavellian principles to navigate these complexities? Would you, like the river, adapt your course to circumvent obstacles, ensuring the continuity of your journey toward success? Or would you stand firm, risking stagnation for the sake of unwavering principles? In embracing these insights, remember that the essence of Machiavelli's teachings is not an endorsement of amorality, but a call for a more nuanced understanding of leadership. It is an invitation to transcend simplistic moral binaries and engage with the intricate dance of power, perception, and psychology. As you move forward, let these lessons guide your decisions, empowering you to wield influence with wisdom and foresight, balancing the scales of morality and pragmatism in the pursuit of lasting impact. Finally, I urge you to share your thoughts and experiences. Have you faced situations where Machiavellian tactics seemed applicable? How did you resolve them, and what did you learn from those choices? Engage with this dialogue, for in the exchange of ideas lies the potential for deeper understanding and growth. Until next time, stay curious and courageous as you navigate the complex interplay of light and shadow within the realm of human conduct.